We got an interesting but really fun matchup, in my opinion, this weekend between Northwood and Tiffin. You have Northwood that is 7-2 on the year. You have Tiffin who is 6-3 on the year. Both 5-2 in the conference, in my opinion, and two of the best teams in the conference besides. Obviously, you have to talk about Ashland. Obviously, you have to talk about Finley. But these are two teams that really going up against each other. It's going to be strength on strength. And I think that's what truly makes this the most interesting matchup that I've seen in a little while. Not only because of that, because I think you have two very high level quarterbacks in this game. I think you obviously have to talk about Ethan Hampy. He's been absolutely fantastic this year. 19 touchdowns, a little bit under 64% completion, over 1,700 yards on the year. He can also do it running the ball as well, using his legs. He has a little bit over 170 yards rushing the ball. And then obviously you have Alex Johnson as well for Tiffin. He has had a really good year overall. He doesn't use his legs as much as Ethan does, but if you have to talk about his stats, 67% completion rate. He has 2,400 yards on the year, 23 touchdowns. This is really going to be an interesting quarterback battle because if you look at both of these secondaries, both of these defenses, both of them are very, very strong against the pass. And when you have quarterbacks that not only have performed well overall this year, but you have quarterbacks that I fully believe are very, very intelligent, understand how to play the quarterback position. You don't see a lot of these quarterbacks making mistakes. And typically these quarterbacks, Alex, Ethan, both of them haven't made too many mistakes this year. And because of that, that's obviously going to put a ton of pressure on the secondary. It's going to put a ton of pressure on who are you going to guard. Because you have to talk about Tiffin. You have to talk about kind of the main receivers for Tiffin. And one of the guys that is really going to be a focus point of this Tiffin offense, and really it's just kind of a overwhelming amount of guys that kind of have the same amount of yards. I think that's one thing that Tiffin has going for them is that there's not one guy that quote unquote stands out, especially when it comes to like amount of yardages, when it comes to like touchdowns. There's not one guy, but there's multiple guys. You have Ethan Holbrook, you have Amari White, you have Ronald Blackman, you have Will Linkhart, you have Joey Zalowski, you have a guy in Jaden McKinstry, you have a guy in Tyrese Banks-Dorn. All those guys that I mentioned right there have almost 150 yards of receiving or more. Like Jaden McKinstry was kind of the last guy that I mentioned there that had over 200 yards of offense. That's six guys that has over 200 yards receiving wise. And that's really obviously difficult to go up against, especially for a defense, because you can't really necessarily focus on one specific guy, but you also really have to talk about Northwood as well. They kind of have a very similar type atmosphere, similar type feel to that. Now that I think they do have a go-to guy in Case Boost. He has over 500 yards on the year, but you also have to mention Sam Dersha, 200 plus yards this year. Carter Minks, you have Devin Brown, you have Lake Boost. There's multiple different guys, Mitch Rivard. There's multiple different guys on this Northwood team that has 150 or maybe 140 yards to more than that. Like, obviously, it's not too difficult to tell that Case Boost is kind of the main go-to guy. But again, when you have that guy and you have other guys that have been successful with that, that truly plays a little bit of an issue into the other defense and what they're going to do, because this is a Tiffin defense so far that is only giving up 18 points per game and only giving up 170 yards through the air. Now, if you look at what Northwood has done, they're only giving up less than 15 points a game and 155 yards through the air. That's strength on strength. You have great wide receivers, you have great quarterbacks versus a great secondary. And this is going to be a home game for Northwood. They're coming off of a difficult loss against Finley. I think they're going to be very, very motivated in this one. And you have a Tiffin team that is obviously extremely motivated. You have a quarterback in Alex Johnson that is a veteran. He's been there. He has done that. I think he's going to obviously have his offense and the defense ready to go. And I think that's because of just kind of the competition that both of these teams have faced this year. There's been a lot of similar competition that both of them have faced. Like both of them has faced Ashland this year. Both of them has faced a team in Kentucky Wesleyan. Both of them have faced Thomas More. Like both of these teams, obviously, when you kind of get into the later end of the conference play, you're going to have a lot of similar matchups, and you're going to have a lot of similar competition and similar kind of film. And I feel like that's really going to be why it's interesting, is because you're going to have a lot of film. A lot of these teams are going to know each other. A lot of these teams are going to have weapons that have been consistent kind of guys. And really, in this type of game, it's about who's going to step up. Is Tiffin going to be able to stop the pass? That's one thing that Findlay was able to do well against Northwood, was stop the run, force them to pass, got them into issues. Now, if you look at Findlay, they have a really good front four. In my opinion, probably the best front four in the conference. One of the best front four, best front sevens I've seen this year. Do I think Tiffin has a really good defense? Absolutely. Do I know if it's going to be that level? I don't necessarily know if it's that level, but if it is, this could be an offense that could struggle a little bit with Northwood, but I don't think that's going to be the case. I think Northwood's going to win this game. I think it's going to be a really competitive game. I think Northwood's going to be able to defend home field. I do think Alex Johnson's going to get a lot of yards. There's going to have a pretty solid game. I think Ethan Hamby will have a solid game. I think this will probably be a very low-scoring game. I think it's going to be a very maybe ugly, low-scoring, kind of old-school type football. I feel like that's kind of how both of these defenses going into this game is truly going to play. Obviously, that could be completely wrong. Like, I could be wrong. It could be an absolute blowout. It could be an absolute track meet. I fully don't expect it to be. I think both of these defenses are going to make plays. I think both of these defenses have opportunities to force mistakes. I feel like this is going to be one of those games that it's going to be which defense or which offense has that mistake. And if they have that mistake, is that going to be kind of the nail in the coffin for this one? I truly do. I truly do think that will be the nail in the coffin for this one. I think because of that, because of Northwood being at home, I'm going to have Northwood winning by a one-possession game. I think it might be like 3 points. I think it's going to come down to the fourth quarter. I think it's going to come down to the very, very end. But honestly, it wouldn't surprise me either way if Tiffin wins, if Northwood wins. I think they're both not only great teams, but great coaching staffs, two great quarterbacks, multiple great wide receivers, running the ball as well. I haven't really talked about Northwood or Tiffin running the ball, but Northwood did struggle last game, like I mentioned. I do think they'll be better in this game. You also have Tiffin that is running the ball about 131 yards per game, which obviously isn't where the offense is, where the passing attack is, but still respectable. I feel like it's still going to be kind of reliant on the passing attack for both of these teams, and when you rely on that, that's really your strength going up against the other team's strength. That's going to make it a really interesting and very fun matchup, and I'm excited to see how this goes. I will talk about this game after it happens. I'll recap it, but if you like this content, make sure to leave a like, subscribe, comment. I will definitely be very excited, and there might be a possible guest depending on how this game goes. But I have Northwood winning by 3 points. I think it's going to be very close, very competitive. But yeah, good luck to both teams in this one, and I'm excited to see how it goes, and I'm excited to talk about the game after it happens.